He said, you know what's going to happen now? You got rocks in your pocket. You can't put your hands in your pockets anymore. And after about half an hour, he's like, okay, you can get rid of those rocks. I was like, what was that all about?
Hello all, welcome to the first episode of Season 1 for Audio Stew, a show where I talk with friends, family, and acquaintances alike about a wide variety of topics and why they matter. I am so excited for this year and the conversations yet to come. My name is Kurt Bailey, I'm your host, and today's guest is Dan Bailey, or as I like to call him, Dad. My father spent a few years in the Army a long time ago now, but he remembers it like it was yesterday. So we sat down for a couple hours to talk about his experience in the military, and once he got rolling, he really did not stop. There was no shortage of stories, so I hope you enjoy. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Audio Stew. We have the first episode of Season 1. This is, no more test driving. This is the real deal. No pressure there, guest of mine.
I'm the one cooking in the studio.
Yes, something like that. Today I have on my father, who is Dan Bailey, and we are going to talk about his time in the military, which was not super long, but it was pretty interesting. I've heard him tell stories about before, and I thought it'd be a good topic for us to discuss. So we're gonna start with who the heck are you, sir? Give us the lowdown on who is Dan Bailey. Just
am I?
Just introduce yourself.
Let's see. I am. This year I turned the big 6-0, so that's kind of a milestone in my life. So I'm 60 years old and married and to Amy, and we have been fortunate enough to raise 6 wonderful children. So, computer programmer, work for a company called Dayspring. Kind of known for their card products, but they're branching out into a lot of other areas. But I've been a computer programmer for 37 years now, so
it's a long time.
Yeah, that's a little bit about me, I guess.
Okay, sounds good. What are you interested? Got any hobbies you like? Anything like that?
Yeah, I really enjoy fishing. I like camping. I like especially camping up in the Yankton, South Dakota area, and fishing in that area. I really enjoy that. In my younger days, I did a little more hunting. I haven't done that in quite a long time. I did a little more bowling, I guess. But
I forgot about bowling.
What about bowling?
I forgot about bowling.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's kind of a long time ago. I never was real good at that, but I did manage to break 200 one time. So
hey, there you go.
I was pretty excited about that. I almost blew it on the last ball. I was so nervous. So. I enjoy running, which is a sport that I've picked up in the last 5 years again. I was a runner in my younger days and picked it up in the last 5 years more out of a necessity for good health, getting in better health, but I really do enjoy running, so I look forward to doing that. Wintertime now, so I haven't hit the treadmill rather than running outdoors, but I will run outdoors in the winter here if I can catch a good day now and then if the roads are clear enough to run on, so some things I enjoy doing.
Yeah, that's great. You told me earlier today that you're going to be the fastest you could be this year at your age.
Right.
So,
well, let's see how fast I can get. Last year I got to my last race of the year. I ran a 7:07 mile. So I think if I could shed more weight, I could definitely bring that time down. So. It was kind of hard finding a race this year with COVID going on. So.
Yeah. Well, you definitely would have beat my time in elementary and running them. It's terrible.
I might mention to the viewers that I'm not the slimmest guy in the world either. So I'm old and I'm bigger, so I've got a couple of strengths against me. But I can't reverse the age thing, but I can do something about the weight.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, we've all put on a few pounds. I've been looking in the mirror recently, and I'm like, I might want to check those flaps a little bit. But
yeah, it was probably about your age. I was in the military when I probably started to put on that excessive weight, which seems sort of odd. I'm in the military. I ought to be in great shape, right? Too good of food.
Yep.
Where was that?
Oh, maybe we'll have to talk about food later.
That'd be good. We can do that.
Anyway, so yes, it's Dan Bailey. There's a lot more. It's, just a treasure trove of all sorts of fun stuff there. And yeah, I mean, you talked about computer programming. You've also been an elder in a church for, not currently, but for several years you were involved with that.
That's true.
You got
several I do,
several children.
Mm-hmm. Church is an important part of my life too, the Christian life itself. So,
and endless wit and dad jokes. So I can blame Dad for everything that happened.
Probably would rhyme with dad jokes. It's probably bad jokes.
Yeah, maybe something like that.
Isn't that what a dad joke is, though? Anyway.
No, dad jokes are great. So yeah, we're not going to talk about that, but that's a little bit of introduction. And today we are going to talk about your time in the military. So,
right.
Oh, excuse me, got a burp there. To start with, I want to do just a simple overview, and then we'll go back through and kind of walk through the whole process of it. So,
all right.
Overview: time in the military. What branch? How long were you in there? How old were you? Where were you stationed? Any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So, what branch? I was in the Army. And what age? I was actually 17 years old when I joined the Army.
Wow.
Served in the Army. Where I was stationed? Multiple places. Basic training in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri in the hot summertime. I was stationed on an Air Force base after that in San Angelo, Texas, a Goodfellow Air Force Base. I was there for about 6 months. From there, I went to Fort Lee, Virginia for about 2 months. And then after that, I was stationed the rest of my time in Fort Hood, Texas, which is just outside of Killeen, Texas. It's central Texas. I was there for over 2 years. And then, I don't know that we need to get into this too much, but I did spend 4 years in the National Guard after my, full-time military Army service. So,
yeah, we can maybe talk about that.
That's just a part-time thing. So,
well, yeah, we'll talk about that after.
Sure.
Time in the Army, probably. Man, 17. That's kind of... It's a little wild. I'm trying to think of 17. I was still sophomore year for me. I'm just trying to pass geometry class.
Yeah, the thing was, I wasn't even... I was 3 months from turning 18 when I served in the Army.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I started. Yeah.
That's kind of wild.
So pretty young.
So what time, what years were those
that
you were actually in it?
Yeah, Kurt knows I'm pretty good at remembering dates and things like that. So, but I went active in the Army on June 7th, 1978, and finished my time on June 6th, 1981.
Okay. So, follow up to that question, and this probably pertains a little bit to like your position and stuff. But was there ever really much of a chance of you getting deployed in that time?
Yeah, that's a great question. When I joined, everything was really good. And of course, when you go into the military, there's always that possibility that you could get deployed at any time. In fact, you have drills that go on in the military where they lock down the base or whatever. That, you know, pretend like you're going to get deployed or something. But the during my time in the military, I think it was, I might get these dates wrong. It was right before, it was the time before Ronald Reagan became the president, when Jimmy Carter was the president. There was the, I believe it was the Iranian hostage crisis, and where, I hope I got that right. It was one of those Middle Eastern
Okay.
countries.
Okay.
I think it was Iran. Yeah, where a lot of Americans had been held hostage for a number of days. I think it was months on out. And so that was very, kind of high alert time. So a lot of concern during that time. So
Is that so? You would have been right in between that era of like Vietnam and Cold War. Is that right? Or like not quite?
no, it'd be after the Vietnam War. I think
I meant after that. Yeah.
the Vietnam War, I think, technically ended in 1974. I mean, we'd been withdrawing troops years before that, started to drop the numbers down. But from a military benefit standpoint, if I would have been a year older, when I enlisted, I could have gotten the GI Bill under the Vietnam era. I think benefits. I don't know. It was better benefits if I would have been a year older, and I think it may or may not had anything to do with Vietnam or not. But anyway,
So
yeah,
not,
I was about 4 years outside of Vietnam officially. Okay. So if you want to say that.
So not quite in the height of any sort of.
No, there was no wars going on at that time.
Okay.
Not in the U.S.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
We weren't active.
Okay.
Anywhere.
All right.
So never saw active duty. So I thank God for that, because I mean that's what you prepare for. But I don't know that something I didn't want to have to go do. So
yeah, it definitely takes on a whole different feeling when you're still in your own home country versus off and away, and who knows what can happen.
Yeah.
So why did you decide to join the military, and then follow up would be why the Army?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, I guess it was, like probably most high school students. They're always trying to think about what they're going to do for careers, and either join the workforce, or go off to college for a lot of people, or go into some sort of military service or something. But for me, our family wasn't a rich family by any means, probably at, middle class, lower middle class, maybe family, and didn't necessarily have the money for college. And I really didn't know what I wanted to do anyway. And I've always been kind of a patriotic guy, so I felt, we have so many freedoms in our country that, I just felt it was my duty to go serve my country, and didn't really have money for college, wanted to go serve my country, and had thoughts of going to college after the military, and the military had some benefits to it that would help me save money for college.
I see.
So, yeah. And I think you asked why the Army.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I never really was interested in the Navy. I don't think I would have ever liked going on a ship, but there's probably a lot more to that I don't even know about. I guess that was my mental picture back then.
And you just instantly were like,
I don't want to be on a ship or a submarine,
Yeah.
So didn't want to do that. I thought a little bit about the Marines a little bit, but wasn't sure I really wanted to do that either. Air Force was kind of interesting, but I ruled it out because you had to sign up for 4 years, and I didn't want to have that long of a commitment, and so that kind of left the Army. So I went with the Army because it was a 3-year commitment versus the Air Force a 4-year commitment. So, yeah.
So really, all of that kind of sounds really like just a lot of practical, logical reasons for your decision making, which is kind of how you roll a lot of the time.
Maybe the other reason I did it too is maybe the Army recruiter got to me first.
Oh, well, actually, I was gonna ask about that. I'm like, so what was like the process of joining, like getting recruited and things like that?
That's something I don't exactly. I don't know if I had the first contact with the Army recruiter or he contacted me first. I kind of think he contacted me first, but I can't remember. So and of course, if you, I know a lot more now than I did back then. Just a young 17-year-old kid, you don't know much, and I was like, you tell an Army recruiter, yeah, I might be interested. He's going to be all over that.
Yep.
Because they have quotas to meet too. They have expectations for those recruiters to go out and get recruits. So, yeah, so that was kind of interesting. And my parents were okay with me going into the military. I can remember the night the Army recruiter came to my house. I grew up in Stromsburg, Nebraska, and the recruiter was out of Columbus. And he showed up and kind of explained how everything works and, different options you might have. And then he starts, can we fill out an application, and I'm like, oh, yeah, sure. And then he's asking me all these questions. And, some of the questions I'm just laughing about because it's like, have you ever been arrested? I'm like, no. And it's like, you ever committed a felony? Did you do all this stuff, And, I'm just laughing it off, It's like, oh, yeah, he's got nothing on me, right?
Yeah.
And then he comes to, have you ever had a speeding ticket? And it was like, oh my goodness. I had gotten a speeding ticket the year before.
Yeah.
And I thought I got away with it from my parents not knowing about it. Yeah, so, I didn't see how I got away from it. Other than Stromsburg was in Polk County, and I got the speeding ticket in York County.
Yeah. And
so it didn't show up in the Stromsburg paper. But I knew it would show up in the York paper. A lot of people from Stromsburg get the York paper.
They get
and
speeding tickets?
Oh, yeah. Really? If you... I'm sure... Well, like if you even...
I know, like in the newspaper, they have like the officer responded.
Right. I mean, that's... Yeah, they have all that kind of stuff. So
interesting.
So... But my dad worked in York, and I thought, oh, one of these guys he works with is going to read that.
Oh, yeah.
Say, see, your son got a speeding ticket. But it never happened. So I was like, it's one of those things like, oh, yeah, I got away with it. I totally got away with it. It's like, no, it came back.
A year later.
So then I was like, yeah, I've had a speeding ticket. My dad looks like, when did you get a speeding ticket? Oh, last May,
Oops. That's really funny.
Yeah. So it was... kind of not a big deal at that point since it was like 6-7 months earlier. So.
Huh. So you filled out all this application stuff.
Yeah. So I filled it all out, and then the next thing is I'm trying to remember how this worked exactly. The Army recruiter took me to Omaha because I had to take some tests in Omaha.
Okay.
I had to take these tests at I think it was called the AFES station. It's what's Armed Forces Entrance Examination Station or something like that. But I spent the night in a hotel in Council Bluffs, which I think, it might have been the first time I ever spent the night in a hotel by myself, you know.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And by myself anyway, for sure. And then they came and got us early the next morning, fed us breakfast, and went to downtown Omaha. And I think we start off with a physical first, and you're basically it's since it's the armed forces it's everybody that's going into the military or examining.
Yeah. Army,
Air Force, Marines, Navy, and it's just a big line of people, and basically you're stripped down to your t-shirt and shorts, or maybe not even a t-shirt, but just shorts, and you're going through this physical exam, and you feel kind of like you're on the line of a meatpacking plant or something. I mean, they kind of hurry you through it. I remember some of these doctors or whatever, they weren't the nicest people in the world. They were kind of grumpy, and and they kind of confirmed at one of the tests that I was colorblind.
Oh, yeah. Did you know for sure then?
Well, yeah, I knew I was colorblind, but I don't know that I ever had a real test for it because, and of course, you're packed in close to the next guy behind you and in front of you, and all I know is this next guy in front of me is calling out these numbers, right? Mm-hmm. And so I got up there, I was thinking, well, what's that all about, And you go up there, and he's got this little, it looks like one of those flip calendars, and he's got all these colored dots on it. And he says, he goes, look at that page and tell me the number. I was like, well, I don't see any number. And he flipped the next page. I don't see anything, It keeps flipping. It's you're colorblind. Move on. So, anyway, there was some. That test alone had some bearing on what I was allowed to do in the military.
Okay. Because
I think recruiter had asked me, like, what some of the things that you might be interested in. One of those was electronics, right? and so,
was it the red wire or the blue?
It's exactly what they said. So they got up there, it's like, we don't want you cutting the wrong wire, son. It's like, no, we can't let you do electronics. So. So anyway, I passed the physical, and then after that, there's I don't know, 2-3 hour written examination where they're seeing what areas that you're gifted in, I guess. Mm-hmm. And I scored pretty high. I don't remember what my exact number was, but it was good. Mm-hmm. It was a good number, and then they said, and so based on where you score at and kind of your interests and where the Army's current needs are. Mm-hmm. They said, we want you to try military intelligence.
Like a spy?
Well, no, this was, let's see, what was it? The Army is really good about giving you codes and all this stuff for all their occupations. And this was a 98C, 98 Charlie.
Okay.
Signal Intelligence Analyst is what it was called.
Okay.
They give you a expensive name there for each thing, So anyway, I was like, well, I don't know. That sounds pretty good to me. It's like, I mean, they couldn't totally explain it. I mean, there's a generic description for it. So it's basically the military is spying on communications for the enemy. They are writing down all the, transcribing all this information.
Okay.
And so it's not like you're trying to break the code or anything, but it's like it's sort of, by the time it gets to you, it's like in plain text,
Okay.
and you're having to figure out, okay, what does all this really mean? Because they're really talking about something different in this text.
Huh.
I mean, there was something in the text that you were supposed to grab and
Okay.
figure out.
I bet you
And so,
could have done it. You're
yeah,
problem solving.
we'll get to more of that later.
Okay.
But anyway, so anyway, I said, yeah, I'll try that, and then, okay, so once I picked that and I agreed to that, they told me where the school was at. There was going to be at Goodfellow Air Force Base in San Angelo, Texas. That's
Okay.
the second place I went to, right?
Yeah.
So I knew that much, and then I got to pick my permanent duty assignment once I finished my schooling,
Okay.
and I was like, oh, I had my choice of, I think it was Fort Carson, Colorado, Washington. There was a fort in Washington, and there was Fort Hood, Texas, and maybe even Arizona. There was 5 or 6 of them,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, oh, well, I'd kind of like to go somewhere where it's warm in the winter time. So I picked Fort Hood, Texas, right?
Yeah.
Now, that ended up not being the prime choice, but the recruiters don't tell you that. But I'll get to that later, probably too. So anyway, I picked that. So that was in January of '78 when
Okay.
I was a senior, and so that day I was officially in the Army, but I was in what they call the delayed enlistment program. So I actually signed up, I was committed, but I didn't go to basic training until June.
Like, because you had to finish school. And
Yeah,
stuff.
I got to graduate from high school first. So,
Okay.
yeah. So.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
there's pretty extensive to that for initial sign up and everything.
Yeah, there's quite a bit there to do.
And so even at that point, like, you had some idea of what it would be like, but really not a lot.
Yeah,
like,
you really don't understand what military life's going to be like at
Okay.
all.
So then let's, you
want to fast forward?
yeah. Well, actually, what about that? What about that time in between, like senior year and stuff? Like, were you excited or nervous or just focused on other stuff?
You know, it's funny. I look back now, and if I think back now the way I am now, I'd probably be like, oh, I'm really nervous. I'm going to the military. But I was like, no, I just enjoyed the rest of my senior year.
Okay.
I was in the middle of wrestling season.
Yeah.
So I had that to think about. And then after that was over, I did track season. And then I had to think about graduation. And then after that, literally it was like 3 weeks after I graduated from high school, I was on my way. So, yeah, it really went quick because I think it was late January when I signed up. And so, only about 5 months later, less than 5 months, I was on my way to Missouri.
Was there really anything like in that, I don't know, like that 3 week period of like, like I did everything, it's ready to go, like, you gotta like say goodbye to people and stuff, or
yeah, that was tough. It was tough saying goodbye to some people, and I do remember that. Okay, that day in particular when I left. Okay, and so the day I left, how it was going to work, and there's just a lot of firsts when you're that young and you're going into the military. So my recruiter from Columbus drove over to our house in Stromsburg to pick me up, and he was taking me back to Columbus. And he was going to put me on a bus. Yeah, okay, of course I've been on a school bus before, but I've never been on a commercial bus by myself anywhere. And he's telling me what to do. It's like, okay, this is going to Omaha. You get off in Omaha. And here's a little, I don't know, voucher or something. And you look for a taxi driver, I think. And you give him the voucher, and you tell him to go drive you to this hotel in Council Bluffs, Iowa. And the same place I'd stayed before. So those were all kind of firsts, But I do remember that day, my dad came home early from work. to say goodbye to me, to see me off. So that was. So I remember saying goodbye to my mom and dad. So that was kind of tough. So.
I gotcha. Yeah. So now let's fast forward. You finally get there. What about those first few months? Like, what was it like? Was it?
Oh.
Did you have any expectations?
Yeah.
Was it, like, way different?
So just even getting there, like So I spent that night in Council Bluffs. Got up. Then you're officially swore in the next day. And a little funny side story. The Army has maximum and minimum weight standards.
Okay.
And there was a guy that showed up. He was supposed to go active that day. He was trying to gain weight.
Oh no!
Because he was too thin. So he was like drinking water, eating bananas, and a bunch of stuff. I still remember it was kind of funny.
It was like Steve Rogers.
I don't know. Maybe they should have put. Yeah, it was like a Steve Rogers. They should have put lead in his pocket. Or something.
Maybe. I don't know.
So anyway, he got swore in officially then, and then there was one other guy and he was from Omaha.
Okay.
And they took us to the Omaha airport. It's my first plane ride ever. And it was from Omaha to Kansas City, which, just driving from Omaha to Kansas City is not that long of a drive. So the plane really flight's like 20 minutes, I think. So it was like, wow, that was really quick. And then walk around the Kansas City airport, which is, I know today is really not that big of an airport. It just seemed huge to me at the time. And they gave us a voucher for some food, and it was like, I didn't know anything. And this other guy was like, well, let's go get a steak, I was like, oh, okay. So we got a steak, and then after that, we were flying from the Kansas City airport to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, some little town just outside of Fort Leonard Wood, and it's a little plane. It's like, there's like 2 pilots, but there's like, it might hold 6 passengers or something. Oh, wow. It's really small. Huh. And I was like, wow, this is a lot smaller than this other plane. The other one. And then when we're flying, okay, so this was in June.
Yeah.
We fly through a thunderstorm.
And there's
like lightning all around me, and I'm like, I might not get to the military, It was like, so I was like, wow, we finally got out of that, and by the time we landed and got there, it was really late. It was like midnight. And then they had to check us in and stick us in a bunk somewhere. It was like probably 2 a.m. when we finally got there. So when you first get there, I mean, you're in your civilian clothes, obviously, and there's this whole processing that goes on for like this first 4 or 5 days. And I could draw this out to be really long, but I'll try to speed it up a little bit.
Okay.
But there's just a lot of stuff they do that you don't even think about.
Yeah.
So I mean, they measure you up, and they take away your clothes, obviously, and you get your military clothes. But they got to give you new underwear and T-shirts and socks and pants and the shirt and the hat, and they measure you all up, and you get all this brand new clothing, and then you have to get your hair cut. Everybody gets completely buzzed, but I think these were civilian barbers, but they worked for the military, obviously, but some of them were fun. They were a pretty good group of guys. It was like, how do you want it? It's like, oh, the left side. It was like, sure.
Take it all.
And some of those guys that came in there, I mean, late 70s, long hair was a big thing still. And some of these guys had hair down to their shoulders, and then, like 10 seconds later, they're like bald. It was like, who is this guy?
One guy crying because he lost his hair.
And then on the ground, there's just this huge pile of hair laying there. It's pretty amazing. And then you get all your shots even too. You get immunized. And so, in fact, I got to help with that, and they just picked a couple guys out of the recruits, and they gave one guy and me a big glob of cotton and put alcohol on it. And it's like, yeah, when each guy comes by here, rub it on his shoulder. And so we did that. And then as they walk through, there's these doctors or nurses with these shotguns, and they're just on both sides of you at the same time. Because they got to do hundreds of people really quick. And so that was interesting. And
did you say shotguns?
Yeah, I did say shotguns.
I was like, wait, they're blowing off their shoulders.
Put the 12 gauge to them.
I think syringes is the word you were looking
Well, it's a I don't know how it worked, but it was this gun thing.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
and it must have had hundreds of syringes in it. Big.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, it was kind of interesting. One other thing that happened when these guys, these sergeants, these guys in charge, before you get all your clothes, this process of thing, they mess with you too. I mean, like I was talking to some guy, and I had my hands in my pocket. Mm-hmm. It was like, hey, you, me, yeah, get over here. He's like, we don't put our hands in our pockets. I was like, what? I was like, no, we don't put our hands in our pockets. See all those rocks? And Fort Leonard Wood was notorious for all this white rock that laid around. He says, see all that rock in the ground? Mm-hmm. Fill your pockets full of rocks. And he made me put rocks in both till it was flowing out of my pockets. He says, you know what's going to happen now? You got rocks in your pocket. You can't put your hands in your pockets anymore. And after about half an hour, he's like, okay, you can get rid of those rocks. I was like, what was that all about?
Good grief.
So, anyway. Anyways, yeah, so finally you get to meet your drill sergeant, right? Yeah. Anyway, you had an earlier question, what my expectations were. I was like, I had no clue. I had no expectations. So you finally get to meet your drill sergeant, and I mean, these guys are, for the most part, pretty scary. Yeah, I mean, they're very stern. They don't joke around. For the most part, we did have one drill sergeant. We got to laugh. We got to make him laugh. He wasn't maybe quite as serious as the other guys, but yeah, I mean, like earlier I was saying, like I was a runner in high school, so basic training physically wise was easy for me. I mean, it was like I went from cross country season to wrestling to track to the military.
Yep.
So I was already in great shape.
Yeah.
In fact, one of the first things we had to do was they call a PT test, a physical training test.
Okay. And
you had like 5 things you had to do. One was like, you had like these monkey bar things, and you had to go see how many bars you could grab and swing across within like 60 seconds.
Okay.
And I did terrible at that because I just didn't have any arm strength. I was like, oh man, I was so bad. I think I got like 30 or something. I felt bad.
Oops.
And then push-ups was another thing. I did really good on the push-ups.
Okay.
Sit-ups. I did good on the sit-ups. And then there was some agility or something you had to run around hurdles or something. I did really bad on that one. Then there was the mile run, which
you're like, yes.
I was like, I could do this one. So, and you got army boots on, right? Because you don't give you tennis shoes. You got these heavy army boots. And I was like, I'm gonna cruise on this thing. And I went out hard, Yeah. And I'm like lapping people out there. And it was like, ended up, of the 200 people in the whole company, I found out what the time. I had the fastest time of anybody in my whole company.
There you go.
And I still remember it was a 5:35 mile.
Dang, I don't even think I ran that.
So, and that was with army boots.
I know. Good grief, Dad.
So, anyway, that was, yeah. So, I mean, that's where you start to learn a lot more about the military. I mean, they teach you about, how to shoot an M16 rifle, how to clean an M16 rifle, military code of conduct, just how to come to attention, how to march, how to get your uniform right, and just you go on a lot of marches, and they just teach you a lot of stuff. Oh, one other thing I almost forgot about during that first part, they literally they have people from all backgrounds coming to them across the United States. They literally explain to us how to brush your teeth, how to take a shower, how to wash your hair. I mean, just basic stuff that everybody should already know, but
just like hygiene type thing.
Yeah, just basic hygiene stuff. I mean, they taught you that stuff. So, and then basically they got you up early in the morning. You were on the go all day long, and then when you finally got done for the night, then you had get showered up, and you had to get your boots cleaned for the next day and shined. And so you bought this black shoe polish and a brush and all this stuff, and I still remember this too, that I was like, I'm putting this stuff on, and my boots really black and looking pretty good. But then I saw some of these other guys, a few of the other guys knew how to spit shine boots.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm looking at these boots, and like, they look like glass. They literally look like glass.
Huh.
I'm like, how did you do that? It was like, and then I eventually learned how to do that with a cotton ball and water, and then a lighter also.
Huh.
And I could make my boots look that good too, but I didn't get to that in basic training.
Okay.
But I could see it done. So the only other thing I really hated about basic training was, you were dead tired at the end of the day. You wanted to go to sleep, and they had something called, it's just a made up thing. It wasn't even needed. It was called fire duty. It was like, you have to take turns getting woke up in the middle of the night and walk around the barracks looking for fires. It was like, what? There's no fires here. It was like, you're just depriving me of 2 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
And then you go wake up the next guy.
Yeah.
But, if somebody breaks down in the middle there, doesn't get out of their bed, I mean, then someone's in real trouble.
Huh.
But, so that was 7 weeks total.
That was basic training.
Basic training. Okay. I think it was August the 1st when I graduated. So it was 7 weeks, and they have some kind of military experience parade for you when you graduate. And my parents came to that. My sister Julie came to it also. Because she was still in high school. But there was something else I was going to say about that. I can't remember. Oh, the other weird things too in the military then was when you went to go eat breakfast or lunch or supper, you had to go get in line, and you had to come to attention. Then you take one step forward, and then you go to what they call parade rest, which is basically, you put your hands behind your back like this. And anyway, and you were not supposed to talk to the guy in front of you in line.
Okay. And
you weren't supposed to turn around, look around. But these drill sergeants would be watching you, right? Mm-hmm. And if they catch you talking, it's like, go to the back of the line. You just lost it. Go to the back of the line. All the way to the back of the line.
Oh, no.
So, anyway, so that was kind of a bummer, too. I do remember one time I was the last group of people to come in to go get something to eat. Mm-hmm. And it was that particular day, we actually were having a steak. It was like, I can't believe we're having a steak. It was like, I just sat down, and they walked in and says, "Everybody back out the line." I was like, I just sat down. So I took 2 pieces of bread, slapped together, made a sandwich. And I know where I was going with this story, because when my mom and dad picked me up and drove me back to Nebraska, we stopped somewhere for supper. And when our food arrived, I must have looked like the Tasmanian devil going after my food, because I'm just like, probably both hands are going with forks, and just I'm just going really fast, and like my parents are looking at me like, "What are you doing?" You know, it's like, oh yeah, I don't have to eat fast anymore. I can slow down. So anyway, I got maybe a week off or something before I had to go on to my next place after that.
Okay, so you had basic training in
Missouri.
In Missouri,
yeah.
But then you came back home.
Home for it was 5 days or 7 days or something. And then I flew from Omaha to Dallas to San Angelo, Texas. And then I was on this Air Force base for this military intelligence training.
Okay. And this is, you had to do, did you have schooling for this part? I'm trying to remember. Okay.
That's the schooling part of it.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. So there was a small contingent of Army people on this Air Force base, but this was an all services training school. They had Marines there, Navy people there, and there was other types of military intelligence training going on there also.
Mm-hmm.
So when I got there, it was like when they checked you in your barracks, it was like everybody was so nice. And the barracks it would be comparable to a college dorm. It was really nice. I was like, oh man, this is way different. And then the first time I went to their mess hall, it was like, wow, they've got everything here. It's like, you could go through the short order line and you could get a burger and fries, cooked however you want it. There's a salad bar over here. There's cold cuts on that. There's all this buffet stuff over here. And it was like that every single meal.
Wow.
And then they had all these desserts, pies, and puddings and cake.
So this is where
it's like, this is a bad thing for me. You know where this is going, right? Yeah. So when I got there, I weighed, I stayed the exact same weight when I joined the Army to when I got a basic training. I was 155 pounds. Okay. 6'1", 155. When I left to come home, this was August 1st, I came home for Christmas.
Okay.
I got about a week off, I think. I weighed 175.
Just a little bit of a jump.
I gained 20 pounds in, let's see, do the math, August, September, October, November, like 4.5 months.
Oh no.
It's like, not good.
Oops.
So, anyway, totally different experiences. Really, I couldn't say enough good things about the Air Force. It was so much better. I would almost compare it to being like in college. Right. It was really, really good. Instructors were really good. And you said something earlier that caught my attention. It's like, oh, that military intelligence, you know, that sounds like right up your alley, right?
Yeah. Well,
it probably was, but Kurt knows this already, but in high school, I had actually throughout school, I had really no study habits whatsoever. Mm-hmm. I took shortcuts to do things, and I just never developed a good study habit. And so I was just kind of relying on what I had already known instead of actually buckling down and studying hard. The school was 8 weeks long. Mm-hmm. In the first 4 weeks, I think you had to have, there's different levels of security clearances you have to have. I think you had to have a secret clearance, and to get to the last part, you had to have a top secret clearance.
Okay.
And some people were actually waiting there for months, basically doing nothing because they were waiting for their clearance to come through.
Huh.
I knew one guy that had been there forever, and basically he said, I know what's holding it up. It's because I was honest and I admitted I smoked marijuana a few times.
Oh, no.
So, but they did a background check. They talked to some of my high school teachers and people from Stromsburg, and in fact, one of the teachers was like, I talked to them later. It's like, yeah, I hope I didn't hurt your chances or anything. I was like, what did you tell them? You know, I was like, really? What? I didn't do anything. So
I didn't study, but I was a good kid.
yeah, right. So anyway, I got through the first 4 weeks okay.
Yeah.
But I think we had about 25 people that started the class, and after the first week, some people they flunked out after the first week even. I mean, it was like we lost 5 people, I think, the first week, and then each week after that we lost a few more people, and by the time we got to the 4th week, I think we had about half the class left. So I got through that. So then I made it to you got to go across the street then, and this was a heavily guarded area. There was no games being played over there. Huh. There was a couple guards there with sidearms and M16s, and you had to go through this secured facility, and you had to wear your badge. And I still remember one of the other guys I knew there that was in our barracks. He was going to be a linguist, okay? Mm-hmm. Spanish was the language, which it was really good, easy for him because he grew up he was Caucasian, American, but he grew up in South America for some reason. So he knew Spanish fluently. He was a really nice guy. I can't remember his first name. His last name was Reynolds. Reynolds walked into the facility one day and he forgot his badge. And so he was walking in without his badge. Mm-hmm. And one of my other friends told me, did you hear about Reynolds? They had him down on the ground. They had all their guns pointed at him and everything. It's like he forgot his badge. He's trying to walk into the facility. It's like, I'm not forgetting my badge. So, anyways, I got my top secret clearance, no problem. I got through the 5th week of school.
Your secret or top secret?
Top secret. I'm sorry. Yeah, I got to the top secret.
Okay.
I got through my 5th week of school, so I'm 3 weeks from graduating, right?
Yeah. And
then there was a really hard test you had to take. And I just remember, I remember what I did. I don't know why I did this. I got bored or something. I didn't want to study. I just goofed off the whole week, and it came to the test. I just totally bombed the test. Oh, man. And then, they talked to me, and I was like, well, we don't think you're cut out for this. And it was like, and, I just agreed with it. And then, so I was done. I didn't graduate from it. I was 3 weeks short. But the sad thing is, and I know today, I could have done that. Yeah. If I'd have just studied. Yep. So, but I didn't. So then after that, I had to go pick a different MOS, they call it, Military Occupation Specialty, I think. Mm-hmm. So, I think I picked like chaplain assistant was one of the things. And there was some psychologist thing or it was psychology thing. And then I don't remember, there was something else I picked. And then, but just about everybody that, I'll just say, flunked out of that particular course got sent to Fort Stewart, Georgia, and they got off into some sort of teletype course or something. I don't even know exactly what that was. So I was like, I'm probably going to get sent there just like everybody else. So, and I made some good friends at this Air Force base, Army guys that I was with. And, they all ended up going there, and then I finally got my orders. I was like, what's this? I'm going to be a 76 Yankee, a Y, which is a supply clerk, and I'm going to Fort Lee, Virginia. I was like, well, that's kind of different. I was like, oh, I guess I'm going to Virginia. And so I was like, so I left there in January. Flew from San Angelo to Dallas, made a stop in Knoxville, Tennessee, flew to Washington, D.C., got to see the Capitol,
There you go.
Yeah, and then flew from D.C. to Richmond, Virginia, took a taxi to Petersburg, Virginia, which is where Fort Lee is at, got checked into that Army post, excuse me, and was like, oh man, it's just like I'm back in basic training again.
He's like, oh, no
This
more.
this place is horrible. Oh my, it was open bays, no privacy, like bunk beds. There's like, 40 some guys together in this big bay and nothing separating you but lockers and then another set of bay after that. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, I'm just going to hate it here. And it was actually kind of a scary place to be at. It really was. And I had a horrible time there. Like I said, I got there in late January and I was there till like mid-March, I think. And I got sick twice there. Like I had to be in the hospital twice.
What? I don't remember you telling me.
Yeah, there was flu bug was going around. So many people were. The first time, I can't remember if it was the first or the second time I got sick. I was feeling bad at the end of the day at the school I was at.
Yeah.
And so I was in the bathroom, and everybody left, and they locked up the building, and I was locked in the building. I could not get out of the building. There's padlocks on the outside of the building. And I'm like, what am I going to do? I'm stuck in the building. So, like, people are marching by, and I'm trying to beat on the window. Hey, I'm stuck in here. So finally, somebody heard me. I don't know. I was like, they got a hold of somebody, and there's probably some number on the doors. Call this number, an emergency. So someone let me out, and then I'm walking back, and I'm walking so far, and I probably had to stop and up Chuck. I was just so sick, and finally I had to go back to my barracks. It was like, I'm really sick. I'm going to go check in with the doctor. I checked in the doctor and said, oh man, everybody's got the flu going on. It's like, so when they sent me over to the hospital had so many flu cases that they had set up a hot, it was an outdoor tent thing. It was like a hot air tent thing, it was like sort of a dome shape, big thing. So then I'm in there with just, these bed after bed after bed next to each other. So I'm in there for like about a week, and I remember when I finally I was getting better. But the best part of it, they were going to finally let us out of that hospital and move us into the real hospital that day. And the cool thing was that was the day of the Super Bowl.
Oh, nice.
So we got to watch the Super Bowl because they had TVs in the hospital room. So I got better, and I went back and I did some more school, and I got sick again with the flu or food poisoning for all I know with the food I was eating there. Yeah. And eventually, I graduated. The course was... Now, that was one I didn't have to study for. It was just super simple. I was like, yeah, this is just so simple.
Yeah.
I was just breezing through it. I could have got done in 2 weeks if I wouldn't have got sick twice. But it was also armory school where you had to learn up... Apparently, they feel that supply clerks need to also take care of weapons.
Okay.
So I had to learn about tearing apart I already knew about an M16, but I had to learn about tearing apart a 45 Colt pistol, and an M60 machine gun, and the 50 caliber machine gun, which is this humongous machine gun. you didn't work too much on that one, but you had to learn that stuff too.
Huh.
So finally, I graduated from that. I was really excited because it was a Friday. I was going to get back to home in time to go watch. I think basketball season was still on.
Okay. For like your
For high school.
Okay.
I was really excited. I'd go watch a high school basketball game.
Yeah.
See friends and stuff. So I flew from Richmond, Virginia to Chicago. I got to Chicago, and the plane that I was supposed to get on to fly back to Lincoln, Nebraska was fogged in.
Mm.
I was stuck in the O'Hare Airport for 12 hours. And that was a weird experience because they had all kinds of scammer people walking around the airport. And when you're traveling in military clothes, you're an instant target.
Hmm.
So I had all kinds of people coming up to me, asking me for money. And some guy trying to promote this, I think this, whatever, Hare Krishna or something. He gave me this book. I was like, what's this? And, oh, it's about enlightenment and stuff. I was like, oh, okay.
Like, man, just leave me alone.
I'm just like...
just trying to get home.
And I was just like, after he said it's a free book, and I was like, okay. And then he said, okay, how about a donation? I was like, I thought it was a free book. It was like, can you spare $1? I was like, I suppose. And then so I opened my wallet up.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, hey, I got all these ones. You care if I broke this in for? I saw you had 10 in there or a 20, 10 or a 20.
Mm-hmm.
And like I give him that. He's like giving me $1 back.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how about the rest of my money? Can't you spare any more? I was like, no. That was starting to get mad. I was like, give me my money back, you know. And then I was finally at some point got in line to go get on the airplane, and there was another one of these guys because they were working the airport. He had this book. He was coming up. He was trying to talk to me. And other guy was behind me, was like, don't listen to him, you know. And then I was like, I already talked to somebody. I had one of those books. I was like, where is it? He goes, well, he told me to pass it on, so I did. And what I did was I threw it in the trash can.
Oops.
So anyway, I finally got home. It was midnight. I missed the basketball game. I was really bummed and spent a few days at home, and then I drove to Texas.
Okay. And
so I finally got to my permanent duty assignment at Fort Hood, Texas.
Wow.
And it was kind of a cool thing. So when I was driving down to Texas, this was March, I think. And the drive-in, I spent my first night in Denton, Texas. I didn't go all the way the first night, mm-hmm. which is just north of Dallas. And the drive-in was open. I was like, wow, this is amazing. It's so warm. I picked the right spot to go to, you know?
Yeah.
And I drove on the next day, checked in to where I needed to go to, and this was just incredible. I mean, the odds of this happening are literally 1,000,000 to 1, probably. One of the guys I went to basic training with mm-hmm. was on the Air Force base with, that washed out also. Mm-hmm. He went to Georgia. I went to Fort Lee, Virginia. He's walking across. We crossed paths mm-hmm. when we're there. I was like, Daryl. His name was Daryl Haggard. Right? Yeah. He was from Mississippi. It was Daryl. What are you doing here? I was like, what are you doing here? You know, it was like, it was amazing. So I had this immediate connection with someone I knew. So that was just, so we hooked up, and so we both knew we were going to be stationed at the same place for the next crazy. Couple of years.
Wow.
So yeah, that was pretty cool. So anyway, that took a few days, and I finally got to my assignment. And one of the things I mentioned earlier was maybe Fort Hood wasn't the best place to go to.
Yeah.
So but I was kind of proud of picking Fort Hood until I finally got in the Army. And then I would, kind of proudly say, well, they say, well, where are you going? I'm going to Fort Hood. I go, oh, sorry, dude.
No.
It's like, I'm hearing this over and over. It's like, oh, this is like this is the worst place you could pick to go to. I'm like, how come these recruiters led me astray, And so, anyways, so anyway, I finally got there. And I got assigned to a hospital of all places. It was called the 21st Evacuation Hospital. Okay. It was a field hospital. You probably think of MASH, sort of. It was sort of like that, almost. It's basically a unit that could be deployed anywhere in the world. They had a 20-ward hospital and basically had all the people they need. They just plug in the nurses and doctors. And so I was a supply clerk for this place. And so, and the residents that we lived in, the barracks, they were really nice. It was 3 people to a room, and they were nice accommodations. Okay. And the mess hall where I was at, this probably didn't help me either, but they were an award-winning mess hall. People from, and okay, I will say this also, Fort Hood is just a huge place.
Okay.
Okay, it's like, I think it's like 300 square miles, right?
Yeah.
And part of the reason it's so big is it's the 2nd Armored Division there, so the tanks have a playground to go run their tanks wherever, right?
Okay.
But, so, and I think at that time, I think there was close to 100,000 troops there. So it was a big, big place. There was a lot of crime. Killeen was the town right next to it. And, it was basically known for pawn shops, signature loans, used car lots, stereo shops, fast food places, hotels, gas stations, and drugs, prostitution. I mean, it was
all sorts of jazz.
It was not a good place to be at, So, yeah. So, yeah, I spent my over 2.5 years there.
Okay.
Or over 2 years there, I should say. But, yeah, I made some good friends there, and I guess probably the biggest thing that I didn't like about the military was I really got homesick. I really missed coming home. So, it helped, having some good friends there. That friend, Daryl, that I mentioned earlier, the guy from Mississippi, there's a little bit of a story about him.
Is he the guy with the car?
Yeah, that was the car story.
Okay.
So, anyway, Daryl was from Mississippi, just about 40 miles from Alabama. And he didn't have a car. I had my car. Like I said, I had a 74 Nova.
Okay.
And anyways, Daryl's dad kept promising every weekend he was going to bring his car to him.
Yeah.
And this went on for months. And it was like, I talked to Daryl and I was like, he's bringing it this weekend. He's promised. They come Friday. It's like, are you getting it? Nope. He's not going to make it. And I mean, Daryl was about ready to cry, man. I mean, he was at his wit's end because he really wanted his car. So I was like, Daryl, you pay for the gas, and we're going to Mississippi this weekend. We're getting your car. I was like, I don't know how far of a drive that is or anything about it. You just give me gas, and we'll get there. And this is before ATM machines and all this stuff. So we go over to the Post gas station and we fill my car up with gas. And anyway, we both write checks to get as much money as we can.
Yep.
And it's 6:00 in the afternoon, the evening, and we're like, we're going to Mississippi. And I didn't know it was a 600-mile drive, It's like,
that's a little bit of
So, yeah, so it was a long drive. So, we left at 6 p.m. We drove all night long, and we stayed awake, no problem, and we were listening to the radio and just talking and stuff, and we we were almost to his house, and Daryl, I could tell he started getting nervous.
Yeah.
I was like, "What's wrong, Daryl?" And he's like, "Well, I just want to let you know we don't live in no mansion." It's like we're pretty much dirt poor. It was like when we pulled up, it's just a real small house, and I think all the glass was broke out of the windows, and they had like plastic over it, and probably no real heat in the house. There was just a fireplace going, and just real thick quilts and blankets on their bed, and all I know is we got there, and his mom made us a wonderful bacon and eggs and toast breakfast. And by 7:30, I was asleep. I got to go to sleep. Daryl didn't go to sleep at all. He was getting his car ready to go. And by 12:30, they woke me up, and his mom gave us a wonderful fried chicken dinner. And by 1:30, we were back in our cars heading back to Texas.
Wow.
So I got like 5 hours of sleep. Daryl got no sleep. And we're driving back. And I still remember that trip. I didn't have any problem staying awake until that last probably 2 hours of the drive. And that's where I'm struggling. I'm fighting to keep my eyes open. I'm sure I'm falling asleep. And we got back, I think it was like 12:30 or 1 a.m. And man, we basically drove 1,200 miles in 30 hours time.
Wow.
And got like 5-6 hours of sleep. So, but anyway, Daryl got his car, his Mercury Bobcat, which is the twin to a Ford Pinto, which is declared one of the worst cars ever built. Like sometimes you could say about a car like, "Oh, what do you do?" You're like, "You're 0 to 6. What's 0 to 60?" It was like, for Daryl, it was like 0 to 60 sometimes. There was literally this big hill that we'd have to drive up to when we would go. Sometimes when we go to Temple, Texas, his car would barely make it up the hill. It was really bad. So, anyway, that's kind of my stories. There was one other really interesting thing that happened there that made the national news.
Okay. Oh yeah, I remember
So,
you told me this too.
Yeah. So while I was stationed there, we had like intramural volleyball league and stuff. So we were over playing volleyball at some gym, and I don't know what time of the year it was, but we're driving back. I'm driving back, and I'm driving through the parking lot, and there's helicopters flying over our barracks. Shining lights down. I was like, what's going on here? It was like I parked my car, and there's people huddled behind their cars, and they're like, "Get down! Briscoe's gone crazy!" I was like, what in the world's going on? I knew who Briscoe was, and this was actually a pretty nice sergeant that was there, part of our whole unit. And then, finally they let us go back in our barracks, and the barracks right next to me, there was a shooting that occurred. And it left one dead, and then the shooter committed suicide. But basically, he was a soldier who was ready to probably start retirement, and had been dating a younger girl in our unit and wanted to get married, and I think she was breaking up with him or didn't want that. And it was like, well, if I can't have her, nobody will. And he was coming to kill her with a pistol. And so he tried to break into her barracks, and they had deadbolts on the doors, and there was more than one girl in her room. Her roommates were there too, I think. And so they deadbolted the door, and then there's a way you could put a broom on it so you couldn't even turn if you had the right key combination, you could somehow get that open even, and so that would even prevent that. And they put their locker in front of it. He tried shooting the door lock and he couldn't get in, and but someone tried to stop him, and that's the person that got shot and killed. And then he killed himself. But yeah, it was all over the national news, so it was pretty scary. So
not exactly a everyday occurrence though. Just
no,
crazy event.
Yeah,
that'd be really hard. Were you like? I know you've told me that story before, but were you like on edge or at all the next couple days or?
I think I was probably kind of always on edge at Fort Hood. That was just the kind of place it was. I can remember another time where I don't know if I told you this story or not, but my friend Daryl and I, we went to a drive-in movie, and Daryl was being nice, and he was after the movie was over, he was letting cars go in front of him, and there were some guys in a pickup started yelling at us. I mean, they were wanting to get out of there apparently, and they're yelling at us, and we just drive. And we're in Daryl's Bobcat. Well, I could outrun his car. And anyway, all I know is we're driving back to Fort Hood, and we pull up to a stop sign, and this open beer can comes flying out of their car and almost hits our car. They threw it at our car. And they're following us. And I'm just like, I don't know what we do. And then we were just driving around for several minutes, and we got back on the post, and I was like, I don't know what to do, Daryl. And then finally Daryl stopped the car, and Daryl's like right next to see us. So he goes, I got a tire iron right here. And he had it in his hand. It was like, and there's these 3 guys that were in this pickup. And one of the guys was very belligerent and stuff, and probably drunk.
Yeah.
And he was talking about how he was going to shoot us and kill us, and one of the other guys was like, "Whoa, man, back off," you know. And I don't know. We just nothing never came to fisticuffs or anything. But I was pretty nervous, and finally we just both drove off, and so I was a little nervous that time. I had one other experience that was kind of scary, but more like funny probably than anything. Is that I went to see a horror movie.
Okay.
I went to see Friday. I think it was the first. No, it was the first Halloween movie. Right? Okay. And so I had guard duty the next night. Right.
Yeah.
And so guard duty was kind of a joke there. It was we had a motor pool, which is where the motor pool is where all of our units, Jeeps and big trucks and stuff, all the stuff we use were parked there behind this fence, and you had to guard that, right? Mm-hmm. And it gave you an M16 to walk around with, right? But you had no ammo. It's an empty M16. I was like, okay, well, that's going to do a lot of good. So, but you had to walk in front of it, but it went way back. It was a pretty big motor pool. It went back where it was pretty dark. You had a flashlight, maybe. I was like, and I'm walking this, and you had to take 2 shifts. And usually one would be in the daylight, and the other one's going to be like maybe 2 in the morning, 2 to 4 in the morning. So I'm out there on the 2 to 4 shift, and I'm like, man, I'm not walking back in that dark anymore. I was like, that's the last horror movie I go to see before I go guard duty.
Oh man, I guess I think about the other day when I went into my room and recorded for a couple hours, and I'm like, wow, I'm kind of surprised I managed to go that long. I'm like, Dad, you just talked for like 40 minutes straight. Like,
oh man, I'm sorry.
No, it's good. It's fun. I'm trying to think of anything where to go from all that. I thought it was funny your story about getting locked in the bathroom because I remember in Arkansas I got locked in the bathroom upstairs, and then there was
that's true.
There's this whole thing about like, I'm gonna break the door down, Kurt. like
I got to do my let's see, it was the what was the movie with the Karate Kid?
Oh yeah,
I got to do my stork kick on the door.
Boom.
Actually, it's kind of funny how I broke the door down, how I kicked it.
Yeah.
I actually saw that happen when I was in the Army, because the guy in the room right next to me, he was like, I think he'd been using drugs or something, and they wanted to take him in for treatment. Mm-hmm. And he's like, I'm not going, It was like, I think it was I can't remember if it was the second or third story. I mean, it was up there. It almost had to be the second story he was on.
Yeah.
But he was like, he had deadbolted the lock, right? And our captain came up there, and we had several guys coming to get this guy, right? He's like, the captain is like, the door's locked. That's okay, I'll open it. And he took his boot, and bam! He broke the door down.
Oh, no.
And as soon as he broke it down, the other guy jumped out the window. And he took off running. Of course, they eventually caught him somewhere, but... Oh, man. So, I think he probably got a little bit of trouble for that.
I mean, maybe. How would you not? I mean... Even two stories that would hurt too.
Oh man, but yeah, it's like, so I'd seen that guy. I was like, well, I guess that's how you break a door down. So, so it kind of talk about people getting in trouble.
Yeah,
kind of remember a couple of other stories, just real quick ones. I got the supply clerk job.
Yeah,
and the guy I was replacing, he apparently. Let's see, I never met him. His name was Bishop, I think. Mm-hmm. Anyway, or Bish, maybe. I don't know. I never met him. Apparently, he had been robbing 7-Elevens in Killeen.
What?
Like, he robbed like 5, 6, or 7 7-Elevens. Like this spree of 7-Eleven robberies. And they eventually arrested him. And I was his replacement.
What happened to the last guy?
Oh, yeah, he's in Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, is where he got sent to. But I think someone told me he had a good religious experience there. Like maybe he became a Christian or something. So might have been all worked out for the best. Right?
I mean, that's how life goes sometimes.
And the other quick little story I was going to tell you, there was another guy in my unit that... he wasn't the brightest star in this guy. There was an area of Killeen that was the really bad area that they flat out told you do not go there. Of course, when they tell you not to go there, some people are just going to go there.
Yeah. It
was called D Street, right? That's where the drugs and prostitution went on. Mm-hmm. And he got arrested down there. It's probably a good thing he got arrested because he probably could have got shot and killed. He was trying to sell baby powder off as cocaine.
That's really stupid.
That's the mentality of some of the people I worked with.
Oh man. Okay. So people who have been listening to this obviously know by now that you have a very specific but very excellent memory in many regards. I have one other question though in regards to your memory because I want to test you. You said that Super Bowl game.
Yeah.
Who played and what was the score? Do you remember?
It was Pittsburgh and Dallas, and I know Pittsburgh won. It was an extremely close game because I wanted Dallas to win.
What year was the Super Bowl? This one?
Should have been January of Well, January or February of 79.
Okay.
Should have been Dallas and Pittsburgh.
Okay.
And I think it came down to a field goal at the end of the game. And I'll guess on the score, but I'll probably be wrong here. I think it was within 3 points.
Okay.
I'll say it was, what would be a good guess? 28-31.
Okay. You're very, very close, and that does not surprise me.
Okay.
It was the Steelers and the Cowboys.
Okay.
The final score was 35-31.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I'm trying to see. So it wouldn't have been.
Well, it was Terry Bradshaw and Roger Staubach, I think. I think it was Roger Staubach still.
Yeah, Terry Bradshaw won the MVP for it.
Uh-huh.
I'm not gonna look up all the details, but I was just curious. That's Pops for you. He's got the opposite of a memory of a goldfish. I don't know what that would be. He's got the memory of a I don't know, a rock that remembers everybody who's stepped on him or something like that. I don't know. I'm not very good at metaphors. It's getting late.
I'm good at memorizing life experiences. Probably not so much in the academic world.
Maybe. Oh man. Okay. You did wanna go to bed soon because you got work tomorrow, and this is like the most laid back one I've ever done. We're like sitting in comfy chairs, got like mood lighting. I'm like starting to fall asleep almost, but it's fun.
There probably was one other thing I was gonna tell you about before. That was an interesting fact for me.
Okay.
That I didn't, like I said, I was very homesick. I was ready to get out of the military.
Mm-hmm.
But in fact, I was saving. Okay, in the military, you get 30 days leave every year. But when they say 30 days leave, that means weekends also.
Okay.
That's not like you're off on the weekend. That counts as part. But you get a full month off every year. But if you don't use that time, there's a couple of things you can do. If any accumulated leave you've got at the end, they can either pay you for, or they can do something called terminal leave. It sounds kind of funny. I'm gonna die. I'm leaving for good. That basically means that you are still literally in the military, but you've processed completely out of your post and you go wherever you want to go, but your final date is whatever that day that your 3 years is up.
Okay.
Anyway, I saved up 45 days of leave. So I had a lot of leave. So I did get out. I cashed in a couple weeks. I think I left around the first part of May. So I got out about a month early. But sometime in April, or maybe it was even late March, I came down what they call levy. And that meant that I had these orders to go to a new post. But in order to go to the new post, I have to re-enlist for at least 2 years, right? Mm. And I got orders for a very prestigious duty assignment. It was, I think the place was called AFCENT. It was Armed Forces Central Europe or something like that. And I was gonna get stationed in Holland.
Wait.
Yeah.
That's not what it's called anymore. Holland. Where's that? That's in.
Oh no, Holland. Holland's a country.
What?
Yeah, it's a country. It's right by Germany and Belgium, and
I think I'm thinking of.
You're thinking of something different.
The Netherlands. Okay.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Okay, it was the Netherlands.
Yeah.
It's not called Holland anymore?
It's in that. It's like the region.
I thought it was Holland.
Yeah.
Okay, but you're right. It's the Netherlands.
I was confused for a second.
Right.
Like, wait.
Okay. So anyway, I was going to get stationed at this NATO base where it was like, so there would have been all these multinational people serving there, and I got this assignment. It's like prime assignment. It's like cream of the crop assignment. People don't just get this, very often. But I got it. And all the officers in my unit that I was stationed at, they're like, "Oh, you've got to take this. You have got to go." And so I thought about it, and I was like, wow, I would get to go and travel. I would get to go abroad. I've never been to Europe in my life. I still never been to Europe. Only been to Canada and Mexico.
Yeah.
Just a little bit over the border.
We went to Canada for 10 minutes.
Yeah. Kurt can tell you about that experience sometime. Maybe we'll do podcasts sometime about our vacations.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Tell about our hour in Canada here. I think it took longer to cross than the amount of time we spent there. So, and Mom and I spent a day in Mexico.
Yeah.
So.
Anyway, Europe though.
Anyway, yeah, I would have gone to the Netherlands, and I would have been able to travel and see probably all of Europe. And like I said, very prestigious duty. But the problem was, I was like, I'm so close to getting out for good, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, but I don't really like the Army. Why do I want to stay in for 2 more years? And it was a tough decision. I mean, for a while I was going to go, and then the next day I'd be like, no, I'm not going to go. And then I was like, I'm going to go. And finally I finally came down to it. I don't really like the Army. I want to start my life, which is going to be something other than the military. So why do I want to continue on for 2 more years? If it would have been a year earlier, yeah, I would have took it. If it would have been like a month before I can leave, no way. So that was a tough decision. And I will say, when I left Fort Hood, I made a very, very, very conscious decision. It was like, I'm not looking back at my rearview mirror. I'm moving on.
You're just going for it. So Dad chose, instead of going off to Europe and being the cool traveling guy, he went back home and became a family man instead.
Yeah. Then I started my college, and I started my other summer jobs that I would. I don't want to get too far off on this, but I always, when I got out of the military, I said digging ditches would be better than this. And the first job I got was digging around telephone poles. And I did that for like one day. I was like, the military was better than this. This was hard work. It was like, this is a horrible job. And then I went from that into working in a meatpacking plant in Grand Island. I was like, this is horrible work too. I was like, I'm going to college and I'm going to get a degree.
Yeah.
So it was good motivation. So, but like I did hang on to a little bit of military experience, and I've been talking for a long time. But I did spend 4 years in the National Guard, which helped pay for my college.
So what do you mean National Guard? Is that just you had to show up for some things, or like what was that?
Well, yeah, it's interesting. Well, kind of one of the questions you asked earlier about deployment. Did I ever deploy? See. Okay, so you could be in the National Guard and you could still get deployed like regular Army. And that's obviously, what's happened with Desert Storm and all that. So we had lots of National Guard that all got deployed during that time for a long period of time. but during my time, again, it was still peacetime.
Yeah.
So once a month for, I think it was just, yeah, it was Saturday and Sunday. I joined the unit in York,
Okay.
Nebraska. And I don't know, I think you started at 8 and you were done by, I don't know, 6 o'clock that night or so. And the same thing on Sunday. Excuse me. And then we had 2 weeks, not two, 10 days to 2 weeks in the summertime
Mm-hmm.
that you had to go do a summer camp. So I know for sure at least 2 years I went to Minnesota to something called Camp Ripley, and 1 year when I was in college, I went to Colorado,
Mm-hmm.
Fort Carson, which was a really all those experiences were actually pretty good experiences. So
Hmm.
so and then once I finally graduated from college, I think I still had a few months left for my commitment, but I think there was something about if your job is preventing you from being in the National Guard, you could exit early or
Oh,
something.
okay.
There was something, I don't remember. And so I think I maybe the last 2 or 3 months, maybe I didn't finish those drills. I
Mm-hmm.
maybe didn't attend. Didn't wasn't considered like AWOL, like in trouble.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah. So
Hmm.
anyway, that's about all I got to say on that.
Well, I mean, we'll have to talk some other time about other stuff because you you've been around a little longer than I have, and you've done a lot more than me. So
Yeah.
you there's all sorts of crazy stories of just life with the Baileys and all sorts of stuff we could do some other time. But um, I had a couple other things I thought about. I think I'll have two things to finish.
Okay.
So,
I'll see what I can do here.
what is one lesson that you learned during your time in the army, and like that you still like think about today? Or
Yeah, that's a great question. It actually brings up another little story there. When I was on that Air Force base, a couple of lessons learned there.
Mm-hmm.
Like I flunked out of school, so I realized, you know what, I need to step it up a notch.
Mm-hmm.
I need to take pride and do quality work, and and take pride in what I do.
Mm-hmm.
Actually put effort into it. There's another incident that occurred there that we had just the army people. We had an inspection,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it really should have been a piece of cake. All you do is, basically shine your shoes, make sure you have these insignia that you wear in your uniform. They're brass. You just take a little can of something called Brasso with a cotton swab, and
Mm-hmm.
you clean it. You make sure it's clean, it's shiny, and you make sure your hair's cut, and you've shaved, and your uniform's pressed,
Mm-hmm.
and you have this inspection, right? And they come down the line, look at you, and it's pretty much a formality. Everybody's gonna pass, right?
Yeah.
They come to me and like I was looking bad.
No.
It was like, write down Bailey. I'm like, oh no, I failed. And I don't know. They talked to me afterwards, and they just basically told me step it up.
Yeah.
I don't know if I had to get re-inspected or not, but it was like after that, I really did start to change.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, it's like, no, you need to. If somebody asks you to do something, you be prepared for it. And when I finally got to that final place, in Fort Hood where I
Yeah.
spent over 2 years, I had decided I'm going to take pride in the job that I do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I stepped it up, and they, the officers and the non-commissioned officers, could see something different in me,
Hmm.
and they told me about it even. And I got promoted to PFC like in 15 months, which is really early.
Hmm.
I mean, I got an early promotion, and then like just a few months later, I got promoted to Spec 4, which is the next level, which is as high as I could go in the first 3 years.
Okay.
I couldn't make the next level up, but I got promoted again, and I actually kind of got to be friends with some of the officers because it was like, I think they could see the fact that this guy has potential to go somewhere. Like, when you get out of here, you go to college. You make sure you go to college. You can do something. So, and I think that's the other thing too, is that, you know, when how you treat other people too, if you can instill some confidence in people,
Mm-hmm.
I think that goes a long ways too. I mean, try to see the good in someone and try to bring out the positive qualities. And when you, and I'm not saying flattery, I'm just saying when you really see it, tell somebody about it.
Yeah.
So I mean because I was the kind of person that maybe probably a little self-conscious, didn't have a big you know confidence in myself, and they kind of brought that out of me. So I was like, oh, maybe I could do something.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
So basically, just having those people to actually, push you, and then realizing that, hey, there is some value here.
Yeah, I think so.
Now you can, apply that to other people, I guess, too.
Yeah, and then like I said, just being prepared. Like and it's like. And also, when you do a job, don't do it halfway. Do it the best that you can do. And so, like, how I was telling you earlier, like, I could see how these people could spit shine boots way back in basic training. Well, I eventually learned a technique using a cotton ball and some water and black shoe polish and a lighter.
Yeah.
Where I could make it maybe even better looking than what they were doing with just water and the shoe polish. And actually, we had to get inspected sometimes when I was at Fort Hood, Texas, that final place. I had some people, when you come up for guard duty, you had to get inspected. There's like 4 or 5 guys.
Mm-hmm.
I had one guy in particular, he's like, hey man, can I borrow your boots? He's like, he's always borrowing my boots because he was like, I could win if I have your boots. Because they like look good. So.
Yeah. Huh. That's really good. I don't know if we ever did, in all of that, did we ever say like what
did I do for a job?
Yeah, exactly. I was
I was a supply clerk.
You were a supply clerk, but what did that even mean?
That's a good point. It's just really, I'm sure what a lot of people hear. It's kind of funny because you're a supply clerk, and I'm comparing myself to MASH. So I was like, people are thinking I'm Radar O'Reilly, right? It's like, no, I wasn't Radar O'Reilly, but so it was just I had just various duties. It was, believe it or not, they had something called linen exchange, where you every week you could come in and you bring in your sheets off your bed and your pillowcase, and you drop it off in the morning, and you get a brand new clean one.
Okay.
And so I was like, okay, what do you do with all this dirty linens, right? Yeah. So you just roll it all up like a big carpet roll, right? You throw it in a truck and you take it over to the base laundry and you drop it off, right? But is all this counting process.
Yeah.
So, how many sheets did you turn in? I don't know. We have to count them all. 1, 2. They have to count them. There's 300 sheets, 150 pillowcases, and all. And then, you know, a week later, or a few days later, you go back over there to the other side and you pick up the clean stuff, right?
Yeah.
And then you got to count it all again. And I was responsible for all this too, because I was like, if they come up short, you got to pay for it, right?
Yeah.
I had to personally pay for it because I was responsible for it. So that was one of the things I had to do. And the other thing too was, so I had this stuff locked up in a cabinet, right, with a padlock.
Yeah.
It was like I went home. I didn't even get into this part. A couple of times I got to come home for extended period of times because I got something called recruiting duty.
Oh yeah, you went to go.
Yeah, so I got to come home, and that was really great. I didn't recruit anybody, but I got a bunch of names. But I did get to come home, which was really nice. But when I got back off of recruiting duty, someone had literally broke into my cabinet to try to steal sheets. I was like, who tries to steal sheets?
Stupid.
It was like, what's so bad? It's not like they're gold or anything. But so when I finally was getting ready to leave, they had to count all those up, and we were short on sheets and pillowcases like 20, 30. I don't know how much. I'm like, I'm sweating it. I was like, what's this going to cost me? Is it my last paycheck or what?
Yeah.
But like I said, we had this award-winning mess hall.
Yeah.
And somehow they did some trading, some canned food or something, and they got me sheets and pillowcases.
Huh.
And it was like pretty amazing, you know? So I was like, that's pretty cool, because they actually, like I said, I got along pretty good with the officers, so they took care of me.
So they wanted to help you out.
Yeah, in fact, one time I remember I had filled out my income taxes. This is way before TurboTax and all that stuff, and I can't remember. I don't know if it was the Nebraska state tax or the federal tax. I did something wrong. Anyway, I had did something wrong. I was owing money, and then I had mentioned it to one of my officers. He's like, "I'll work with you on it." And he helped me fill it out. His name was Captain Meredith Hudson. Really nice guy. Super great guy. And we got it resubmitted, and it was like, I was okay. So it was like, that was great. Someone taking the time to help somebody that needed help,
Huh.
So, well, anyway, Lynn Exchange, that was one of the things. Then all the supplies for like the unit, like I literally got like this, it was like a credit card thing, and I'd go to the base supply place, I don't even know what it was called, and I'd have this big long list, a shopping list. I'd go shopping, right?
So that was your job.
Okay, I need 5 brooms today. I need 10 reams of paper. I need all these different pens that people want to write with. I need cleaning supply, just stuff like that. And then we also took care of, like, I don't know, this barracks were full of furniture. Furniture would be broken. And you had to go through this certain process of writing off stuff, and you have to take it somewhere on the post, and they would do something and say, yeah, that's junk. Here, you get a new one now. And then we had stuff to do with tents also, because we had all these tents that we took care of. And it was like, these tents had to be cleaned, and if something was wrong with it, you take them, you have to load this big tent up, take it somewhere, and then they'd stretch it all out, look at it. It was like, oh yeah, that's dry rot. They'd take chalk, circle it, rip it. It's like, yeah, we'll get a new tent here. I don't know. It was just basically stuff like that. It was, I don't know. I probably had other duties. I can't even remember.
It's basically.
It's like, it's just the supplies. what the stuff they needed to keep them going. I mean, it wasn't like ordering the food. The mess hall took care of that stuff.
So it really wasn't anything like super complicated or whatever. It was mostly just like
it was
pretty menial.
It was really simple.
Mm-hmm.
There was a bunch of records of the uniforms. Even there was stuff like gear that they had checked out, and I had all these records I had to keep track of.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like I was telling you earlier, we always used Social Security numbers for ID numbers.
Yeah.
And that was printed on your dog tags too. But, Nebraska's a 507 and 508. Maybe there's even another number. So if any time there was another one of those numbers or near number like that, I figured they were either from Nebraska or nearby, which wasn't hardly anybody like that, but maybe a couple of people. But, there was something else I was going to say. But yeah, it was pretty simple, not difficult at all.
And did you did you get pretty bored of it, or was it you just had time doing other things that it wasn't too bad?
I don't know that I was really bored. I mean, we had other things that we had to do also. It wasn't daily. I think it was 3 days a week. We had to do physical training.
Oh, okay.
PT. So we still had to do that.
Okay.
In the summertime, I think we did it in the early morning because it was so hot.
Mm-hmm.
And in the winter, I think we did it in the afternoon. And I will say, I was still a pretty good runner then. And you did this, I don't know, it was almost like this shuffle, this run. It was really slow because you all had to run in pace.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, this is so slow. It's killing me. And so I think I saw somebody do this once, and I asked somebody, can I do this? Can I please do this? And they was like, yeah, go ahead. So as we were all marching as a group, I broke out of formation, and I ran around the formation as it was running down the road.
Yeah.
Just because I was so bored. It was so slow.
Huh.
So some of the officers didn't like that. One time they said, get back in line. Don't do that.
It was like, oh, come on.
Yeah. So, yeah, that one of the things I didn't like either, like I was saying, Texas is going to be nice and warm in the wintertime. Texas is not necessarily nice and warm in the wintertime. There are some cold days in Texas.
Huh.
And we worked out of these old, probably World War II buildings where we did our supply stuff at. Like I said, my barracks was nice and the mess hall was nice, but where we worked at was not nice. And they didn't have much for heat there. And man, I was just freezing to death down there. I hated that. I did get to learn one other cool experience. I got to drive. They call it a deuce and a half. It's a 2.5 ton truck.
Okay.
So I got to learn how to drive one of those. I was just terrified to drive this thing because it's just huge, right?
Yeah.
And then, you just get a little more used to it. And then after a while, it's just like, oh, this is just a piece of cake. It's just so easy to drive one of these things. In fact, probably shouldn't have been doing this, but sometimes I was like, I could even shift this without hitting the clutch, man. So I was like driving it that way a few times, not very much. But so when I got out, one of the things, when I was in the National Guards, we had to go to Minnesota a couple times, and we had to drive a truck.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh yeah, it's a piece of cake, Huh. So got to learn to drive that. So
it's the first time I think I've ever yawned on the show before.
Oh no.
It's
not
because of you.
I do have one really kind of sad experience when I was in the Army. Okay. One of my really good friends who was from, literally the guy lived just outside of Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. That's where he was from. Mm-hmm. In fact, he told me when he was in basic training, he used to sneak off the base and go home in basic training. It's like you don't just sneak off the base, but I guess if you live just outside the fence, you could probably do that, right? But when the drill sergeants found out he was from there, he was like his best friend because they were trying to ask him to introduce him to girls from the area for dates. But the sad thing I was going to say was he came down for levy for Germany, and he was a truck driver. Mm-hmm. But we didn't really have truck drivers per se in my unit, but he was the company commander driver. So he drove him around. Mm. It was a really good job. Anyway, he was a really great sort of country guy, and anyway, when he got to Germany, he got to Germany, had been there for a few months, came back, married a girl from our unit, mm-hmm. who's a friend of mine also. She was from California. Anyway, this guy's name was Dooley. His last name was Dooley. Elora Dooley. Elora was his first name. Dooley.
Okay.
Anyway, they just got over to Germany, started their life as a married couple, and they'd only been there a couple months, and he got killed in a truck driving accident on the Autobahn. So that was really, really sad, heart-wrenching. And so, like I said, he was the driver for the company commander, and of course the officers loved the guy too. So myself and two of my other friends that were friends of Dooley's, mm-hmm. they let us go to the funeral. They said, don't worry about leave, just go. So we took off, and we drove to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, mm-hmm. because we could get cheap housing, maybe even free, spend the night there because the funeral was right next door. So we got to meet his family, and then after the funeral, I don't know if we came back that day or we spent one more night and then left and came back. But that was tough. That was tough losing him. Yeah, he was a nice guy. So,
are you still in contact with anybody you were like friends with? Or
that's a great question. There's a couple of guys that I haven't been in contact with for a little while now, but I've seen once I got out of the military. See, I got out in 1981, and there was one of my roommates. He was from Paraguay, and he lived in Hialeah, Florida. And I worked for a company called Pfizer, and we had a manufacturing plant in Miami, and I got to fly there mm-hmm. for some project I was on for like a week. And I was like, this guy's name is George Gonzalez, right? Mm-hmm. I was like, okay, so how many George Gonzalez's could there possibly be in Miami, right? There's like probably hundreds, if not thousands, right?
Yeah.
It's like, how am I going to find George? So I knew it was Hialeah. That kind of narrowed it down a little bit. But I used to work for another company in Lincoln called Metro Mail, and they had this huge database of basically everybody in the United States. So I called a friend up for a favor. I was like, could you look up for a George Gonzalez and find me some phone numbers?
Okay.
And she did. And I think I called a few, and I think it was maybe within the first 3.
Yeah.
I hit George. I got him. I was like, Bailey, he's like, I said, yeah, I'm coming to Miami. We should get together. And this was like in 96, I think, because my mom had just passed.
Okay.
So it's been like 15 years since I seen him. So I got to see George. And then for a few years, we kind of kept up on Christmas cards and mm-hmm. stuff. So that was one. And then I had another roommate. His name was Terry Calabrusco. he was an Italian guy. Anyway, well, he's American, but Italian descent. But he was from Wisconsin. Sturgeon Bay, Wisconsin is where he was from.
Okay.
And he got, I can't remember how we ended up getting together, but he had a couple of job assignments in Lincoln, Nebraska. So I saw him on a couple of his trips. So I can't remember. I don't know. Maybe somehow he got a hold of me. I don't remember how that one came together. So I got to see him, and we kind of kept up with Christmas cards for a while and stuff. But yeah, it's probably been a good 20 plus years since I've really done anything with those guys. So
yeah.
I will say that recently is another sad thing too. So on that Air Force base, I had a roommate for a while. Got to be pretty good friends with this guy, and he met a gal there on the Air Force base, and they got married, and I was his best man at the wedding. And I was a little suspicious about this guy when I first met him. Like, I thought perhaps that, and I'm not trying to be stereotypical here, but just something about him. I thought, this guy might possibly seem like someone that might be gay.
Yeah.
Right? So, I did try to do some research about a year or so ago. I wanted to find him and his wife, and I did find them, but the sad news was I found out that both him and his wife are dead now. They both passed away.
Oh, really?
I couldn't find much information about him except for he died when he was 37. So he'd been gone for 23 years now, and his wife passed about 10 years ago of cancer. And I got a little brave on Facebook this spring when COVID hit.
Yeah.
And I figured out that for a while he lived in the Topeka, Kansas area, or his wife did at least. Found out he had some kids, and I just took a wild shot that these were probably his kids on Facebook. So I messaged like 3 or 4 of his kids, because he had 4 kids, and one of them responded almost right away. It was one of his daughters. And then I found out some more information that, yeah, that was them, you know, and that they were both gone now. And his dad divorced his mom because he was gay. And he died of AIDS in California. And that's was kind of my big fear, that how does somebody die at age 37 unless it's an accident or some severe disease? So it was just heartbreaking to me, because we were roommates, and just a horrible way to go, you know. So, and then his wife Kathy, you know, I would have loved to talk to her too, but she's gone. So all I got to do was, you know, talk to one of his kids online for a few minutes, and it sounds like as a dad he really was never around, and it sounded like it just sounded like a really bad whole situation. I talked to them after I got out of the military. They were stationed in Hawaii, and they called me from Hawaii one time in Stromsburg, and that was neat. I got to talk to them for like half hour or something, and so they sounded really happy and excited. And so, but wow, sometimes things just don't turn out how you think they're going to turn out. And sometimes when you go searching for things on the internet, sometimes you may not find the things that you're hoping to find, you know. And then when you find things you're not hoping to find, you might even find deeper, darker secrets that you didn't want to know about. So
It just gets even.
that was really kind of rough for me this spring when I found that out. So it just really bothered me. So
Yeah, life can take some very interesting turns, and
yeah. But I do wish that I there's a few other guys I wish I could have more contact with, or
yeah,
and with the internet and Facebook and all that, it's probably not that hard for me to try to reach out and probably have a pretty good guess on. So this Daryl Haggard I mentioned, though, I have tried to find him, and I haven't had much success.
He seems kind of like a fun guy.
I keep little notes, but I think I know he's in Mississippi, but I'm not for sure. And that was another. I think I found out his brother died, which was sad. So didn't know him, but sorry for Daryl. But so yeah.
What if we go much longer, I'm just gonna fall asleep.
No, that's okay. We can.
This is the latest I've ever tried to record before.
Yeah, that's fine.
If you had, I think I said two things earlier, but I've got two short things. Let's go with that. Okay.
Okay.
One piece of advice you would give someone who is going to join the military.
Go Air Force.
Go Air Force.
It really depends on what you want to do.
Yeah.
But depends on what you're looking for. If you want the rough, tough, like more of the the infantry, or really the tough experience, the Marines are tough.
Yeah.
I met some Marines, and they told me about their experiences. If that's what you want, then that's good. If you want more of if you're looking for more of a professional college almost like experience, Air Force and a good way of life, I think, that you can maintain. I think Air Force would be a good way to go. I can't speak much about the Navy, and I don't know anything about it.
Don't go if you're seasick.
Yeah.
Maybe. Okay. What you've told so many stories, and I think I've heard.
Oh, there is one other thing about when these recruiters come.
Okay.
I don't know how it is now, but it used to be, and they were very explicit with me on this on recruiting duty.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, you can promise somebody where they'll be stationed at. You can promise them the training that they'll get and where that'll take place and where they'll go to basic training at. But that's about all you can promise them. Okay, but there's a little hidden thing in there. And that little hidden thing is, just because you train in something doesn't mean you're going to necessarily do that job.
Oh, okay.
And the unit I worked in, we had a lot of people that were medics. Okay. Well, we were an Army field hospital that was not deployed and rarely was out in the field. We weren't this spotless brick and mortar building that they were hoping to be in. So a lot of these people that were medics, all they did all day long was clean tents, clean stoves, inventory medical supplies. And if you were top notch, you got rotated into, I think it was called the Darnell Army Hospital on base, where you did get to do your job. But if you were bottom of the barrel, if you were subpar, there was no way you were ever getting in a rotation to get over to the real hospital. But the recruiters told me that too. Do not promise them any more than that. And I could verify that firsthand because I saw it happen. That people did not get to do their job. Now, maybe it's different today. I don't know.
Okay. So there's some, if you're looking to go into the military, there's a little bit of advice from Mr. Dan Bailey there. Anyway, what I was gonna say is you've told a lot of stories, and I think I've heard probably. I want to say I heard probably 70% of it before.
Oh, okay.
Maybe not quite that much. I'll say 60%. But
Go with 59.
yeah, solid 59 and a half. It was really good. I'm glad that you decided to talk about it all. It's fun doing it. You finished with some harder stories, which, life is hard and stuff. But do you have one more funny story that you'd like to share?
One more funny
or
story?
just like a funny moment, just anything like that.
Oh, man. A funny moment?
Or just any moment, do what you feel. This is your last chance for another story.
Wow. Oh. That would. I have another story. It'd be hard to describe without showing some visuals. So, it's kind of goes down in my most embarrassing moments. It wasn't
okay.
really wasn't anything to do with the military, other than it took place on the military base. I went over to the post exchange, which is it's essentially like Walmart in the military, right? It's like I would often, like a lot of other GIs, spend time looking at stereo equipment and records and things like that. So anyway, one day I was over there looking at a bunch of equipment, and I bent over to look at some stereos, and I think I had my hands on behind me or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I bent over, there was a lady standing behind me that I didn't know was there. I must have touched her. And she turned around and was like, I was about ready to slap you. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. I was just bending over. I didn't mean to touch you. Oh, so that was that's one of my most embarrassing moments of my life. So it was like, be careful where you're at when you're bending over, I guess. So, one other it's kind of like, I could laugh about it now. It wasn't so funny at the time, but one of my trips when I was driving back to Texas, I had my 74 Nova, and I was driving there, and I had gone through Oklahoma City. I was in the middle of going through Oklahoma City. I was almost all the way through Oklahoma City, which, if anybody's ever driven in Oklahoma City, it is a big city. It's not so much population, but it's just spread out and long. And, this is way before anybody had cell phones and GPS and all the Google Maps. And so you learned how to read a map, and you watch your road signs. Mm. I was almost all the way through it, and I was like, oh, I shouldn't have made that turn. And next thing I know, I'm on this giant loop. I'm basically going all the way around the whole city again. And my car is cutting out, like it needed a tune-up really bad. And I'm trying to get back on the highway, and I'm flooring it, and it's going boom, 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 boom. And finally it's boom, 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 boom. And it took off, and it got me back on. So anyway, after that long half-hour delay, I was like, oh, I'm back going the right direction again. So,
all right.
So, yeah, there's probably some other funny ones in there somewhere, but
we can call it good.
My friend George, my roommate George, that was from Paraguay. He was a funny guy. He always liked to. It was a very kind of a strange situation. I still couldn't figure out why he joined the military. He was 30 years old. He was married. He lived in Hialeah, Florida. And I was like, why did you join the Army, George? He's like, oh, I wanted to learn English better. I was like, well, couldn't you have done that there? Join the military? And it was like, but he kind of had broken English, but he was a very smart guy. And I'll throw in this one plug for him real quick because, like I said, I became a computer programmer eventually.
Yeah.
Anyway, I got I chose to become a computer programmer for two reasons. One, I looked through the whole college catalog and crossed everything off, and I crossed basically everything off as I hate it. Computer programming, I don't know about it. Might try that. And George was taking computer programming. He was studying it. And he said his wife was a computer programmer, and it was a good job. So I was like, I'll try this. George liked it. His wife does it, and I'll give it a try.
40 years later.
and I really did like it. So yeah, literally 40 years ago, I got out in 81. This 2021 now. So.
Wow. Well, Dad, nice job. I think you did a good job.
Well,
you said you were nervous, but I
probably,
think you did all right.
Probably sunburnt my tongue. It was probably talking so much.
I mean, you know what? I'm just glad you opened up and had stuff to share. So It was fun.
All right. Well, I don't know if it's very interesting, but I guess it's something.
I thought it was.
It's fun. My experience.
It was good.
And it's all true.
All right. Well, we'll have you on some other time. Maybe I don't know.
We'll see where the ratings go.
Yeah.
Maybe if the Rotten Tomato rating is down under 50, this might not make it.
Anyway, this has been
all right. Thank you, Kurt.
It's been Audio Stew, and don't drive a Pinto
or a Bobcat.
All right, thanks, Dad. Wow, what a way to kick off the new year! Woo. My dad was definitely a little hesitant about being on the show when I first asked him about it, because he just hadn't done anything like it before, never been interviewed, or basically it was just kind of new to him. But I really, but he did a great job. Honestly, not gonna lie, I think he did a better job than I did, because I'm pretty sure this was like the latest I've ever tried to record before. I think we got done sometime around like 11:30 at night, and I was like, definitely starting to crash near the end. I was about to pass out, which is hard because when you have a conversation, it's like good and you want it to keep going, but at the same time you're falling asleep, so it's like the longer you go, the more and more disengaged you're going to wind up being. So had to call it quits eventually, but despite all of that, I did really enjoy this conversation. I have a ton of respect for my dad, and his memory just blows my mind. And so I hope you enjoyed it too, and are excited for the next episode, which is coming soon. If you are excited, then why don't you leave a rating or a review of the show? It helps out new listeners and lets me know why you appreciate all these conversations. So thank you all. Check back in a couple weeks from now to hear episode number 2. It's going to be a good one. So with all that, I hope you have a wonderful day.